Awesome. Great, thank you, Tyler. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Just wanted to welcome you to today's webinar on how to win $5,000 Gap Year Scholarship. We're really excited to be hosting this afternoon. Just a quick note, before we get started, I wanted to remind you that this webinar is being recorded and will be sent out to any participants that missed this time today. So thanks again for joining us to learn a little bit more about the scholarship. Really excited about what we have in store today and wanted to just take a quick minute to introduce myself so you know who's going to be talking to you for the next hour. My name's Tracy Kuehl. I'm the Global Partnerships Manager here at Go Overseas and on the USA Gap Year Fairs team. Just a little bit about me. I played tennis at my university and actually ended up taking a 5th year of college just so that I would make sure to study abroad. I went to Spain for a semester and had such an awesome and life-changing experience. So wanted to make sure to return after college. So I actually returned to Madrid to teach English for a year in what I call my post-college gap year. So needless to say, international education and gap year opportunities are something I'm really excited to talk about and really passionate about. Really excited to be here today and help all of you get the information you need to craft your gap year and obviously awards a lucky winner with that grand prize. My fantastic colleague, Tyler, is also joining us and helping out behind the scenes. She's driving the slideshow here and we'll be, just helping out behind the scenes. Tyler, do you want to give a quick introduction?
Sure. So again, my name is Tyler Janae. I am the Outreach and Special Projects Manager here at Go Overseas. I just joined the team and I will be assisting with the USA Gap Year Fairs. Today, I'll be making sure your questions are answered about the gap year and the $5,000 scholarship. And a little bit about me, I studied abroad in Costa Rica. And then I went on to get my Teaching English as a Foreign Language certificate in South Africa. After that, I moved to Spain to teach English and American culture, and I'm just very passionate about meaningful study abroad opportunities. And I'm excited for all of you who are thinking about taking the next step towards your gap year dream destination.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tyler. Also excited today to have Elizabeth here. She is our last year's scholarship winner. So she's, here as a panelist. We'll be asking her some questions towards the end. But Elizabeth, do you want to give a quick introduction of yourself as well?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Elizabeth Raquel Garcia. I am last year's Gap Year Fairs scholarship winner. I am also a service-based entrepreneur, particularly working in international education. So I'm on a mission to help support historically underserved students in study abroad. What that means is I help students who are first gen, low income, BIPOC, LGBTQ+, students with disabilities and more, get informed and get inspired about study abroad opportunities. And I myself was a first gen, low income, queer, chronic conditioned, multicultural Latina who had the privilege and opportunity to study abroad 3 times during my undergrad at my university. And I studied abroad in Brazil, Mexico, and Chile. After my graduation, I did more international education programs funded by the Mexican government. And lastly, with the Gap Year Fairs Scholarship, I was able to take a virtual gap year to focus on my entrepreneurial business pursuits, which was really exciting. And I'm so excited to share more with you all today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So this scholarship that we'll be giving away is hosted by Go Overseas and USA Gap Year Fairs. Go Overseas, if you're not familiar, you can think of as like a Yelp for abroad programs. So we host, all types of different programs, gap year, of course, study abroad, teach abroad, volunteer abroad, etc. And Tyler I'll go ahead and link Go Overseas homepage in the chat. So our attendees here can browse the different opportunities that we offer. On gooverseas.com, you can browse different programs, read reviews from alumni that already have participated on those programs, explore tons of different resources such as articles, guides, and obviously scholarships, which everybody's interested in. If you're inspired today to take that leap and start planning your gap year, that's a great place to start. We list hundreds of different gap year programs that feature a ton of different reviews. So you can read through, hear what those participants liked about the program and maybe what they didn't like, and just awesome, feedback from some of those past participants. Awesome. So today we're going to go over the scholarship overview. I'll walk through requirements and details and tips and tricks, obviously, to what we're looking for in the winning submission, where to find different ideas to take your gap year, how to win that scholarship, and we'll open it up at the end for a little bit of Q&A. Awesome. So while we're going through this webinar, I'd recommend opening up the chat. Like I mentioned, I'll be dropping some links in there as we go along. I think to start, one of the helpful tools that we have are some frequently asked questions section that, answers a lot of the questions that we typically get for this scholarship. So I'll be linking that in the chat right now. Awesome. So there is the frequently asked questions page. Awesome. So obviously really important information on this slide. Let's go through why everyone is here, the scholarship details. Every year we run a Gap Year Fair series and give away scholarships as part of it. The first thing I kind of want to touch on, which is fairly important, is who is eligible to apply for this scholarship. I know this is typically one of the frequently asked questions that we get, so just kind of helpful to run through this all together. So if you are a US resident between the ages of 17 and 20, and you're also intending to pursue your gap year at some point to start this year in 2022, then this is definitely for you. Important to note here, the deadline for the scholarship is April 15th. So you all have a little bit over a month to implement all of the recommendations that you'll hear from us today. Also worth noting, if you're under 18, we'll send an email to the parent that you put on your application to, we need their consent before your application can be considered. So definitely important to keep that in mind. So if you meet, all of these requirements, you're eligible to win our grand prize of $5,000, mentorship from an expert gap year counselor who can, help you along the way. I know Elizabeth will talk about her experience with a gap year counselor from last year. And then, the team here, Go Overseas and USA Gap Year Fairs, will be evaluating all of those applications and selecting that one lucky winner. Also worth noting here, if you don't meet any of these requirements, don't worry. I'll go into this a little bit more later, but we have 40 participating program providers that will also be, promoting some scholarships for their organization. So if you don't qualify for this one, there's still a chance for additional funding later on. Awesome. So we go to the next one here. All right. I'm sure everyone here is familiar with the concept of a gap year, but in case you're not, you may have wondered, what is a gap year? Ringing true to the name of a gap year, it's really a period of time when a student, even recent graduate or professional, takes time off or, a gap from studies or work to kind of focus on personal or professional growth, learning through new experiences, travel, even locally or internationally. The term gap year could mean really anything, and the definition has definitely evolved over time. And it certainly means different things to different people, but it's inclusive of anyone looking for some sort of break or change in their life. So whether you're dreaming of international, domestic, or virtual gap year, there are tons of different program options that are eligible for this scholarship. So, you can explore all participating gap year organizations' program offerings on this participating programs page, which I'm going to go ahead and link in the chat here. As I mentioned, we have about 40 participating program providers. So they have, and they don't each only have one program. There might be a provider with 10 or 15 different programs. So a lot of different options for everyone to choose from. So gap years are really most common among 17 to 20-year-olds looking for a break, after high school or during college even. They're not also even exclusive to a full year, even though it's called a gap year. This break can even be a summer program, a semester, a 2-week program, spring break, holiday break, whatever it might be. So they're just typically whatever you want to be. It's just some sort of break, and typically focused on some sort of personal, professional, or educational growth. So travelers might spend their gap year backpacking, visiting multiple countries, seeing more of their own country, volunteering, learning a new language, or even working or interning abroad. So since we have last year's scholarship winner here with us, Elizabeth, I'd love to hear from you about, what your motivation was to take your gap year and what you did as part of your gap year.
Sure. So my motivation to take a gap year came from my interest in wanting to pursue my own business, or my own, I guess, a life as an entrepreneur, following my passion in serving historically underserved students in study abroad. So wanting to support more first-gen, low-income, LGBTQIA+, students with disabilities, etc., and get them informed and inspired to want to study abroad. So I decided to apply for this gap year scholarship so that way I can take the time I needed to build my business so I can offer my service and get my brand off the ground running. So that's what inspired me. I was inspired and fueled by the passion of wanting to serve more diverse students and see more of us out there in the world experiencing the wonderful, wonderful experience of travel, study abroad, intercultural learning, getting to connect with new communities and more. And so what I did is, when I won the scholarship, I quit my jobs, whatever 2 part-time jobs I was holding down to make ends meet. And I took the time to really focus all of the energy I was putting towards working those jobs into building my brand, building my business, connecting with people, also taking on projects along the way related to the types of services and the types of offerings that I wanted to give. And in between all of that too, I also enrolled in a course offered by one of the program providers from featured in Go Overseas, called GVI, which is Global Visions International. And I took their course. It was called The Foundations of Social Entrepreneurship. So it was absolutely perfect for me as a young entrepreneur who was still learning, and I still am learning the ropes of entrepreneurship. Taking that online course is what offered me everything I needed to go ahead and get started and build the foundations for a successful business. So that's what I did with my gap time, including, or I guess along with all of that, I also went on a special program in Mexico where I was able to work on site with diverse students too, which was really the cherry on top of my year last year during my gap time.
Awesome. That's great. It was obviously so much fun to kind of follow what you've been up to since you won last year. But that's great to hear from you. They just let me know that I was only sending the links to hosts and panelists, so I'm dropping them all back in the regular chat so that everybody can access those. So I just sent our homepage, that page that has the frequently asked questions, and then the list of different program providers. So sorry about that. And awesome. If you want to advance to the next slide. Awesome. So let's move on to how to find, which gap year program is right for you. To make it easy as possible for all of our people interested in taking a gap year, we've created what we call the GapMatcher, which is really just a quiz that allows you to put your interests in and gives you a tailored selection of programs that are right for you. So it's definitely might be my favorite resource that we've created. It's really simple. It's like only takes a couple minutes to complete, and you just get, served with 3 or 4 programs that kind of fit all of those qualifications. So I will link that GapMatcher in the chat right now. Awesome. And then if you're interested in a little bit of inspiration for your gap year, I'll also be linking kind of the list of all of the different articles and resources that Go Overseas has created. We have very general articles from, what is a gap year, how to convince your parents to take a gap year, budgeting for your gap year, to even articles as specific as being an au pair for your gap year in Belgium or something like that. So very specific articles as well. So we have hundreds of articles listed on that link that I just sent over. So definitely recommend checking it out. I'm sure there's an article that's what you're looking for here. Awesome. Thank you. All right. Another awesome resource that we've created for potential gappers is the digital guide, which includes all of the providers that are participating in this Gap Year Fair series. It can definitely be a little bit daunting, especially these days, trying to track down all of your options and understand which programs are open and where you can go and which countries you can travel to. So we actually did a lot of this research for you. Our team at Go Overseas has created this digital guide that includes COVID information like vaccination requirements, age requirements for each program, fun facts about the organization or their specific program, admissions contacts, alumni highlights, and a lot more. So I will go ahead and link that in the chat as well so everyone can have that. Awesome. Next. Great. So, so far this season, we've actually already run 7 virtual events where attendees could have attended to chat and speak directly with those participating program providers. So Tyler, if you want to launch our next poll here, I'm curious if there's any return attendees here that have attended a previous event here. So Tyler, if you want to add that next poll, be great. Curious to hear if we have any, if you guys are new to, our virtual event series, or if anyone's attended one of the past 7 events that we've run. Give it a minute here. And while we're waiting for everyone to answer, between now and April 6th, we'll be running a few more virtual events and excited to run some in-person events as well. We'll be definitely talking about that a little bit later. So let's see. Not yet. Awesome. So we have mostly newcomers here. That's awesome to see. Great. And makes sense because everyone wants to win the scholarship, which is great. So I'll drop the link in the chat here for all of our upcoming events, either in person or virtual. Like I mentioned, we have a lot of different program providers participating, and you can actually just chat one-on-one with them and learn more about their specific programs and different offerings. So I would definitely recommend checking it out. And one very important thing, if anyone here is interested in winning $5,000, which I think you do since you're joining this webinar, you should listen very carefully because this is incredibly important to your scholarship application. We'll go over the full point system our team will be using to score scholarship applications towards the end. But if you attend a virtual or in-person event between now and April 6th, we'll be adding an extra credit point to your scholarship application. So I definitely recommend joining an event. You can join a virtual event, which is super easy, just like this, hopping on to increase your chances of winning that grand prize. So like I mentioned, we'll go over more information on this and the full rubric a little bit later. Awesome. Next, and speaking of extra credit points, as I mentioned earlier, another opportunity for a bonus point on your scholarship application is to follow go.gapyear on Instagram, post your submission, which we'll talk more about later, on your Instagram as a feed post, not a story. If you tag us and then use the hashtag Year of the Gap, you will also get an extra credit point. So this information is all on our scholarship page. Like once you actually submit your application, a lot of this information will pop up in case you forget it. But we will be sending out this recording and including that in our emails as well, just to remind everyone to try to get those extra credit points. Awesome. Tyler, you want to go to the next one? Great. We know, here at Go Overseas and USA Gap Year Fairs, we know that planning an intentional gap year can be really overwhelming, but knowing that there are gap year experts out there who are really, keen to help students and maybe college students can make a world of difference for your gap year, from helping you narrow down your program offerings to helping you craft an independent gap year that's just perfect for you. expert gap counselors can play really important roles in shaping that gap year and making it, the best experience that you could have. So I will drop a link here. We, as part of the series, we have a few participating gap year counselors who are really awesome. And like I mentioned earlier, Elizabeth worked with Holly Bull, so she'll talk to us a little bit about her experience later on. Awesome. So moving on here, in case you didn't know, we really like to give away free money. So in addition to that $5,000 grand prize scholarship, if you attend an event either in person or virtually between now and April 6th, we will also enter you into a drawing to win $250. So, in addition to that $5,000 grand prize scholarship, if you attend either, in person or virtually, you'll share your honest opinion about, your experience at that event. We'll be adding you into that drawing. So we'll be giving away a $250 prize to one virtual attendee and also another $250 prize to an in-person fair attendee. So just a reminder, if you attend a virtual fair or in-person fair between now and April 6th, you'll not only receive a higher chance at winning the scholarship with that extra credit point, you also might win $250, which is really exciting. So I will link that schedule in the chat right now so that everyone has access to that. Great. And like I mentioned, we have some in-person events coming up. So, definitely check out that schedule. If there's one near you, you could actually meet us in person, which would be really fun. So let's get to why everyone is here. Obviously, you're wondering, how do I win the scholarship? Well, this advice is super important because Tyler and I are actually on the selection committee, so we kind of know what we're talking about here. So we'll be taking a look at our two winners from last year, Elizabeth, who's here with us now, and Mariama. We'll be looking at their submissions in a little bit and giving you recommendations on how to win this year's scholarship. So as we go through this part, remember Elizabeth is on the call. So if you have any questions specifically for her, feel free to throw them in the chat and get her thoughts. And I will go ahead and drop that application page in the chat right now. That's where you can, get started on your application. Like I mentioned, the deadline isn't until April 15th. So you have about a month to think through it and, come up with something really creative before that deadline. Awesome. So let's go through that application prompt together. You will be writing a gap year manifesto and creating a visual representation of that manifesto. So according to dictionary.com, a manifesto is a public declaration of intentions, opinions, objectives, or motives as one issued by a government, sovereign, or organization. So the things, we'll really be looking at in this, as we're reviewing all of those applications, will be, the following questions. So what do you intend to experience and accomplish during your gap time? Where will your passions and curiosities take you? Who will you meet along the way? And what will you stand for? And what will you stand against? So, you have 100% freedom to craft this however you see fit. Manifesto could be anything. It can be an essay, a poem, even a list. We love seeing applicants really get really creative with their applications. It's always really fun to, kind of review all of the creative submissions that people come up with. So I would, really encourage you to dream big and try to think outside the box. I know one of the questions we're going to get towards the end is, what can I do to make my manifesto stand out from the others? And I actually would ask you the same thing. This is your chance to, make it your own, be creative. We want you to be really intentional about your application, and we want you to, we want to feel your excitement about your gap year while reading that manifesto and reviewing your, visual representation. So we want to hear, why you chose gap time, what you hope to achieve, whose lives you hope to influence, who do you want to become after your gap year. So that is just kind of a brief overview of what we're looking for throughout the application. So there's the manifesto, which is some sort of, essay or poem. And then there's also that visual representation. So we will only grade applications that include both of those. So don't forget the visual and don't forget the manifesto. There's 2 pieces to that application. So make sure you submit the full application so yours can be considered. Awesome. Great. So this is obviously super important, the rubric for how, we'll actually be grading all of these submissions. The manifesto will be evaluated on a 15-point scale, and the image or visual representation will be evaluated on a 6-point scale for a combined total of 21 points. So what we're looking for both the manifesto and the visual representation is relevance, clarity and style, and personality and passion. So those, definitely keep those in mind as you're starting to develop your manifesto and, visual representation. Manifesto is rated a little bit higher, as you can see. So definitely put the most effort there if possible. And like I mentioned, just looking at these will be graded out of 21 points. If you can get those extra 2 bonus points, that's like 10% of your entire score. So it definitely can sway your application. So I definitely recommend taking advantage of those bonus points. So you'll also notice here, there's no requirement for GPA or grade level or anything like that. We'll be hiding all of this information so that we're not even considering that and just relying on those submissions to choose the winner. So, and like I mentioned before, Tyler and I will be kind of evaluating all of those submissions and selecting our favorite, basically. So, we're a team of travelers and gap year enthusiasts. So rest assured, the people that are reading your applications are kind of thinking in the same way that you do, because we all, share that common interest. So if Tyler, if you want to move on to the next slide, we'll take a look at Mariama's submission here. So this is our winner, Mariama, that wasn't able to join us today, but we were really inspired last year by her submission. She wrote, "Art is what I've always turned to as a Black person to know that I'm not alone in my experience, and I want to pursue a gap year in which I visit countries that are part of the Black diaspora to explore how artistic expression takes form in different Black communities." Which, obviously was such an awesome submission, and is, paired with that visual representation, which was really awesome to see. So as our scholarship winner, Mariama actually went on to enjoy some independent travel in West Africa, and then went on to France for a work exchange experience. I know she couldn't join us today because of that time difference, but I know she was working with one of the gap year counselors, Marion Taylor. It was really useful for her. She let us know to have a sounding board, to get that advice from Marion, especially traveling during COVID when everything's up in the air. Really great with travel advice for her. So it's obviously been fun to follow along, Mariama's journey in her gap year, and excited to do the same with this year's winner. So awesome. And if you want to go to the next one, our next winner was Elizabeth, who obviously we're happy to have here on this call today. It was really fun to surprise her virtually with the scholarship last year. So Elizabeth, do you want to give us a little description of the submission and tell us a little bit about how you decided on this manifesto and representation here?
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier, my decision to apply for this scholarship was really fueled by my passion of wanting to see more diverse students studying abroad. And so what I wrote for my manifesto was exactly what I wanted to do with my entrepreneurial pursuit, which was inform, inspire, support diverse students in studying abroad. And I did that same with the visual presentation of my manifesto as well. And it's very, very special to me because the images featured in the photos I'm featured in those photos too, but they are of diverse students that I studied abroad with alongside my different experiences. So if you see the photo on the lower left-hand side, that's a picture of me and my cohort during my study abroad in Brazil. Beautiful, diverse group of people, all from the University of California. Half of us in that photo are first-gen low-income students from the University of California. The other half are first-gen low-income local Brazilian students who took us to their local communities. And this was part of a special class we were in called Community Development that was specifically for social work students, and they just all happened to be first-gen low-income scholarship recipients in that class. So I felt a really special connection being in that class with them and having them take us to their local community so we can learn and connect together. Very, very special and honored to have it captured in that photo and to feature it in this manifesto. And the photo on the upper right-hand side is also another photo of a student cohort that I was a part of after I graduated from college. It was a very special program for students of Mexican descent to go back to Mexico to learn about who they are, where they come from, their cultural history and roots. And every single student in that photo is also first gen, low income, from California. Some of us, our parents are farm workers, etc. So beautiful, beautiful experiences captured in those photos. And I love being able to feature them on the visual presentation, because these are the exact kind of students that I wanted to see studying abroad more, because I'm a strong believer that gap year, travel, and study abroad should be for everybody, including students who might not have had the opportunity because of their first gen low income, different marginalized identities and social statuses. And that's what makes scholarship opportunities like this so special, because it opens up the doors for everyone.
Yes, thank you so much, Elizabeth. That was awesome. And speaking of, scholarships, Tyler, if you want to go to the next slide here, not only does Go Overseas and USA Gap Year Fairs want to give away money, our participating program providers also do. So there is a ton of opportunity to win. As I mentioned, they'll also be promoting scholarships as part of this Gap Year Fair series. So in the coming weeks, this is actually a screenshot of last year's scholarships, but in the coming weeks, we'll be aggregating all additional scholarships on the page I'll be dropping into the chat right now. And we'll, definitely we'll give you an idea of what options are out there, who's eligible for these program provider scholarships, and how can I, fund my gap year through one of these scholarships. So I will drop that in the chat right now. So like I mentioned, they're not up there quite yet, but we will be adding that, the list of different scholarships in the coming weeks here. So definitely keep an eye on that page. Awesome. Great. So I will actually, definitely want to hear a little bit more from Elizabeth, since she was our scholarship winner last year. So Elizabeth, just to start, how did you decide on taking that gap year program with GBI?
Yeah, so I remember after winning this scholarship, I was paired with my gap year counselor, Holly Bull, and she was really, really key in helping me find the perfect gap year program provider for me, which is how I landed across GBI's Foundations in Social Entrepreneurship course, which was the perfect fit, because I was trying to start a business as an entrepreneur. And again, like I mentioned, that course helped me set up the foundations for a successful entrepreneurial pursuit. Working with Holly was really, really great. We had these one-on-one sessions where we would brainstorm and try to organize and design what my ideal gap year would look like. And I wanted it to be an independent gap year because I wanted to have the room to develop my own business, my own brand, take on some projects. I did a lot of volunteer work during the time, including that travel to Mexico, like I mentioned. And that's when Holly mentioned that maybe taking a course rather than participating in a program would be the best fit for the type of independent gap year experience that I was looking for. And it was really great because the course I could take asynchronously. So that means that I didn't have to take it I didn't have to be live on courses, and I was able to have a more flexible schedule and a little bit more freedom with the time that I had during my gap time. So yeah, I couldn't have done it without Holly. She helped me find the perfect course. And if you all win the Gap Year Scholarship as well, you'll be paired with a Gap Year counselor who can help you find your perfect program too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And, last year during the series, did you attend a USA Gap Year Fair?
I did attend a couple of fairs. I want to say I attended them all, but I don't really know. I know that I attended a couple of webinars and I think 2 of the fairs that were offered. And it was really, really great. That's obviously how I won the scholarship, I think, was by coming to the fairs in the first place and attending the webinars, because it was during these sessions that I was able to get informed on exactly how to win the scholarship, like how you, Tracy, are explaining to the webinar attendees, like all the different steps that they need to take and the different criteria that the scholarship I guess panel will be using to determine the winner of the scholarship. Attending these webinars is where I was able to also connect with different program providers and ask the different questions I had regarding their offerings. And also I connected with Holly Bull before she even became my Gap Year counselor. So I was able to get a taste of what her counseling style was like and able to connect with her and ask some questions. So attending these fairs and webinars was extremely, extremely helpful. And I really believe that it was the key to my winning the scholarship. So if you're here, you're off to a good start, and continue coming to these different webinars and fairs. You're not going to regret it.
Great. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And speaking of, your time working with Holly, maybe tell us a little bit more in detail what that was like. How hands-on was it? Was she, did she speak to you at the beginning and then you kind of were set off on your own, or was she pretty involved throughout your entire process? I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so working with Holly was really great. First, we had a one-on-one call where we were able to sit down and brainstorm together about the type of gap year that I wanted to take. We were able to design that, and she gave me a lot of really good recommendations and ideas, and she connected me with some really important people in the field of international education too, which I really appreciate. After that initial call, we were corresponding back and forth via email. She would send me some recommendations and I would say, I like this one, I like this one, I don't know how I feel about this program. And then we would narrow it down from there. So she would just get back to me with more program options, and from there I was able to, I guess, look through all the details of the different programs, and based on my interests and what I was looking for, able to say okay, maybe not this program, maybe this one. And after she had sent me all of the different programs and we had gone back and forth via email, we went on our final call and we were able to, I guess, go through some of the final options and pick the one. So that's kind of what the gap year counseling sessions were like with Holly.
Awesome. That's great to hear. And so nice to have, her expertise while you're trying to figure out, what is the best option for me throughout my gap year. So that's awesome to hear. And Elizabeth, we have a few scholarship applicants here. What advice would you give to this year's applicants?
Yes. Some advice I have for all of you attending this webinar today is to, 1, attend the webinars, which you're already off to a great start. Soak up all the knowledge that you can. Ask whatever questions you have. And you're here to learn. And the people here giving the webinar are here to answer your questions. So if you're ever unsure about anything, don't hesitate to ask for clarification, because folks are here to help you because they want to see you win. So that's number 1. Number 2 is also attend the fairs and engage with the different program providers and the gap year counselors to get a feel of their services and whether or not they would be a good fit for you. Like I mentioned, that's what I did. I hopped in and out of a couple of different program providers' presentations to get a feel of the programs that they were offering, whether or not I qualified for them, whether or not I vibed with them, or if it was a good fit. And again, with the gap year counselors as well. I didn't just meet with Holly. I met with I popped into a couple of presentations of different gap year counselors. And it was based off of those interactions that I decided that, okay, if I get a gap year counselor, it's going to be Holly Bull. Thirdly, I would say apply to the scholarship, putting your best intentions forward. You want to make sure that your scholarship application reflects 3 things, and it's like my secret sauce to scholarship winning. I'm a really good winner of scholarships. So I'm going to share a little bit of my knowledge with you. Make sure that your scholarship reflects these 3 things, which is number 1, why you want to win the scholarship, what you will do if you win the scholarship, and how you winning that scholarship will help pay it forward to others. So that's like my simple 3-piece recipe towards creating award-winning scholarships, because you have to keep in mind that scholarship committees are investing in you and your experiences, and they want to make sure that the investment that they're putting forward in you is going to create the biggest impact that it can. So they want to see you becoming transformed by the scholarship opportunity, and not only transforming yourself, but transforming the world around you. And the more you can reflect that in your scholarship, the better your chances of winning. So for example, in my scholarship, I said, hey, I want to win this scholarship so I can help, other diverse students study abroad. If I win the scholarship, that's what I'm going to do. And if I win this scholarship, I'm going to help these students, become inspired and informed to want to study abroad. And then they will become inspired to want to help others too. So that was essentially my scholarship application. And here I am. I won the scholarship, and now I'm able to talk with you all today, hopefully to offer a little bit of insight on how you can win the scholarship too.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why she was our winner last year. So definitely, lock into that advice, and, we'll be sending out the recording of this, but just as a reminder, those 3 things that we're looking for in the applications is relevance, clarity and style, and personality and passion. So just, always keep those things in mind as you're, starting to draft up that manifesto and visual representation. So that's it for us. If any of the audience has any questions, I know there was a question a little bit earlier from Jill. She asked, are there recordings previously held? Are there recordings for the previously held events available for us to view? And yes, I know Aaliyah dropped a link to our YouTube channel. So I will drop that here again for everyone to reference there. So we've run, a few other crash course webinars and other different events throughout this series. So they should all be available on that YouTube link here. But wanted to open it up if anybody has any additional questions here for either, me or Elizabeth, who is our winner last year. She can definitely give some awesome advice there. I'm happy to, I actually, we've received a few questions in our inboxes from scholarship applicants already, and actually it just opened. So, I might go through a few of those unless anybody has any questions here.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So someone is asking, what if they're not sure if they want to do a gap year? Should they still fill out the scholarship application?
Yeah, that is a great question. I would say absolutely. Maybe you do win the scholarship. That's kind of the push you need to actually take your gap year. And we will be prioritizing applicants that already have applied to those participating programs that are listed here. So if you're not sure, I definitely would recommend starting your application for that scholarship. And if you want to withdraw your application and you decide, hey, actually a gap year, isn't right for me at this time, that's totally fine. You can absolutely do that. But obviously, it's free to apply. So no harm in starting that application. So if you do decide that now is the time for a gap year, that you'll still be in the running for that scholarship. Yep.
I wanted to add to that too. For people who aren't sure whether or not they want to take a gap year and aren't sure if they should apply to the scholarship, I just want to share my little secret that or a little piece of advice that you should keep all of your options open, because you can be really surprised at life and where it can take you if you just consistently apply to opportunities and keep all of the doors open, because you never know, I guess, when some doors open, other doors shut, or you might find your life leading in a different direction that you didn't expect, and maybe one that's more adventurous and that than one you could have ever imagined for yourself. So just I would say apply anyways, even if you're unsure, because it never hurts to keep those options and opportunities open, because the last thing you want to do is close yourself out from from having those options and opportunities in the first place.
For sure. Awesome. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Tyler, were there any other questions from the audience here? Did you get, I'm happy to read a few questions we've gotten in the inbox that, other people might be interested in. Actually, we have a question from Jennifer. Elizabeth, how did you fund the rest of your gap year?
So I am technically still in my gap year, sort of. With my gap year, I guess I started it back last May. So I only technically considered my gap year to be a 6-month gap period, not an entire year. I'm funding the rest of my gap year through my entrepreneurial project. So it was like a good transition, because I started off like, quit my jobs, used my savings, was living off of that. I got the scholarship. Some of the funds went towards the course that I enrolled in. Some of the funds went towards equipment to get started, and the rest was dispersed to me, and was able to help keep me afloat. And after the funds, I guess, were gone or depleted, I made a successful transition into actually generating income for my business. And that's how I've been able to continue funding my gap year so far. Fingers crossed, it keeps going like this. Things are looking up.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much, Jennifer. That was a good question.
Another quick question.
Yeah.
Does the scholarship application cost money to apply?
No, I know we've gotten that email in our inbox a couple times. It's totally free to apply, so absolutely no harm in starting that application. We will not charge for that application at all. So it's totally free for anyone interested in a gap year, keeping in mind those eligibility requirements, but no, there's no fee to actually apply. Yep. Awesome. Well, if anyone has any future questions as you're, starting to draw up your application, you can feel free to send your questions to community@GoOverseas, the email I just dropped into the chat. That was it from us. So I'll, let everyone go, but wish everyone the best of luck. Can't wait to see all the wonderful creative submissions. Hope to see everyone either at an in-person or a virtual event in the next month or so. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful night.